Over the next couple of weeks, again, my name is Dorsey Atkinson. I'm Dorsey 2.0. Say that back to me. Dorsey 2.0. That's the new version. You got to do it. Dorsey 2.0. Let's say it. That's the new version of Dorsey that's here to be your pastor now for the next several months, years, whatever time frame it's going to be. Let me tell you what I've got. I've got over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing some video of various aspects of our church. We're going to be doing videos of people greeting, of offering, of different shots in the room, putting the signs up, taking the signs down. And what we're doing is we're trying to compile all these videos to make some educational training videos, combine them all together to sort of have a video archive of things that you could tap into to say, well, hey, I'd like to be a greeter one day. What's involved in that? And we would have this training tool that you could look at about greeting or about hospitality, about various aspects. What they have back here, Daniel, I've given this out to a few people. Back there where Daniel, turn your head and look toward Daniel. He's pointing at them. These are some sheets that have the things that we're needing videos. If you see someone videoing you during a service, during something, it's not they're trying to creep you out or anything. We're just trying to get these for these educational things. So if you're interested in doing that and you have a smartphone that's able to video and you know how to video, these are the things that we're looking at you could do, and it doesn't matter how many different takes that we get or how many different people turn these in, we can use them all. And you can email them to the church. So if you want to do that at the end of the service, you can pick those up back there. Like Bo was saying during the prayer, we got a lot of people out traveling. I've realized that people don't travel on July 4th in Statesboro. They travel the next week. And so there are a lot of people traveling, a lot of youth camps. We have some people from our church. In fact, I'm going after this service to Camp Adrian, which is, I actually don't know where it is. They got me lost yesterday. I think I went 30 minutes out of the way. But all I know, I've never seen this happen when I said, Siri, how do I get to, and it says Siri's not available. And I just about lost my mind. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, I mean, I'm on a road without Siri. I don't know. And it's like no houses, no anything. And it was really scary, guys, let me tell you. The map disappeared. Now listen, now you tell me after I've lost 30 minutes of my life yesterday in stress, you know. But anyway, if I know where it's at, but I'll be at Camp Adrian this week helping with the youth camp or a part of a children's youth camp for another district that's doing that. And next week I'll be in McRae. I'm actually going to be doing Vacation Bible School for adults. Didn't know we did that, but I'm going to give a shot at doing that over in McRae a couple days next week. So, yeah, I think that's all the commercials I wanted to cover. Hey, by the way, how did you like the outside? Did it look a little different? Yeah. Did y'all like that? Do y'all like the bushes gone and all that cleaned up? Do you even know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. Because let me tell you, I didn't see any of y'all here yesterday to help with that. So you're going to have an opportunity to help out over the next couple of weeks as we get the pine straw down and get some other things down to neaten the place up. Do be careful where you're walking, and some of the flower beds has Roundup on it today. But with that big storm we had last night, I think it washed everything away that's in town. If you were in town, it was a pretty... Anybody have fun last night in the storm? Yeah, it's okay. Anybody lose power? No? Okay. All right, so last week we started a conversation about our PTWG, our personal time with God. And in talking with us about this, and as I talked to the staff about how important our personal time with God is, the staff said you need to go and drive this home by coming with another message on this and emphasizing a couple things that you didn't cover last week. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to recap quickly what I talked about last week to get you to the point. The purpose of personal time with God, PTWG, is for you as an individual to get to know God and grow in an enjoyable and loving relationship with Him. Now, I want to tell you that in my opinion, PTWG, your personal time with God, is probably the most important thing that you can do each day. I'm just saying it's probably the most important thing you can do always, at any time, is your personal time with God. And we were talking in the first service, and someone asked me, said, well, if it's that important, why wasn't this one of the 10 Commandments? Why wasn't number one or number two or number three? Let's see, number one is love the Lord your God, don't have any other idols before, all the different ones. Why isn't there one that says, you need to spend time with God daily to develop your relationship? You need to invest in God. Why wouldn't God give us that command to tell us if it's that important to our existence? And here's what my explanation was in that first service. How did they get the 10 Commandments to begin with? Did you ever think about that? Who got the 10 Commandments? Anybody know? Moses. Who did he get them from? How did he get them from him? On a mountain. Who told him what they were? So it's Moses' relationship with God, Moses' personal relationship with God, that allowed us to get these instructions for life that you and I use today, that churches around the world are built on these 10 Commandments. So it's not that God said that's not important. God, and you can't really get your instructions for life. You can't really understand how to do and live life if you aren't communicating with me. And for those at that time, for the Jewish nation and now for us, those messages were based off, or the 10 Commandments based off, Moses' relationship with God, his personal relationship with God. So I don't know where you are today in your personal relationship with God. And I don't know where you are, actually personal relationship, I'm wanting to say personal time with God that will help you grow your relationship with God. Now, I don't know where you are. And I don't know if you are happy with your relationship with God. I don't know if you're happy with the amount of time that you spend in growing that relationship. I don't know if you feel like you're giving more than people give or less than people give. And the fact is, I'm not worried about you comparing what you give in terms of your time comparing to somebody else. My question to you this morning is, are you growing in your relationship with God? Because if you're not growing in your relationship with God, if that relationship with God is not growing as a loving relationship that can survive all things in this crazy world that we live in, then I would say maybe you need to listen a little closely to the message today. Because there may be some things in here that will help you to get better or to improve your relationship with God because or through your personal time investment with God. Now here's a couple things I want you to know about PTWG, your personal time with God. First of all, it's not a duty. It's an opportunity for you to spend time with God. Many people want to do, I'm a checklist person. If I pulled out my cell phone now, you would see a list on my notes of what to check off to do. I don't function well without checklists. It gives me order to this chaotic life, and plus this chaotic stuff that goes on in my head. Because it's like Jill will tell me something, Hal will tell me something, and whatever, Joy's name will tell me something. So everybody tells me something, and will you do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And it's like, how do I do it? I forgot. So here's the insider information. Even my wife knows this. If you don't see me put it in my notes, don't count on me doing it. Okay? But if it's in my notes, it will weigh on me. Just like that piece of tape that was hanging on the window right there just a moment ago that I can now see because the bushes are cut. I had to go out there and jump up and pull it down. It just weighs on me because it's like it's just there, So that's the way my notes are to me. But here's the thing. If you're a note person, if you're one of those people that's a checklist person, I don't want you to look at your personal time with God as a duty. I want you to begin to think about it. It's an opportunity for me to take to be with God, to invest. Let me tell you, when you invest, you're looking for a return on your investment. And I promise you, there's no amount of time that you can invest with God that won't come back with some return. And I think if you strategically were invested in the stock market, you can invest in everything, and many things might make returns. But what if you strategically invested in a certain way, in a certain manner, in a certain discipline? The chances are that you would gain great rewards back or returns on your investment. So your personal time with God is not a duty, it's an opportunity to communicate with God, to hear from God. See, God knows everything about you, but do you know a lot about God? And see, that's where we learn that. Personal time with God, your PTWG, is also about consistency and quality, not quantity. It's not about how many minutes you put into it. It's not about how many hours you do. I've seen a lot of people study for 6 hours watching or playing video games while they're studying or doing something else and fail the test. And they said, I invested 6 hours of time in it. I've seen people go to study groups before and be a part of the group, but really weren't a part of the group. They were there. You understand? I'm looking at this side over here, but you understand what I'm saying. You've had those people in your group that didn't really add to it, but then they're upset because they don't do well. It's not about the quantity of time. It is about the consistency and quality. Consistency means you got to be there every day. Got to be there every day. If you're a sports person, if you're a batter and you're a home run hitter, you got to be at batting practice every day. Can't take a day off. That's what I love about old Cal Ripken. He's had all these great awards and all these things, and he broke the record for the most consecutive games played. He didn't take a day off. I mean, in a sport where they play several hundred games a year, or in a 12-month span, I mean, by the time you add them all up together, it's crazy how many games they play. And yet he didn't take a day off. You know he had to be sore. You know he had to have stomach aches. You know he had to have headaches. You know he had to have things going on. People in his life having issues, and he was consistent and played, and he made a difference. Personal time with God is about reading the Bible for transformation, not just for information. See, it's not about building your case about what you're gaining information about to know more so you can go argue with somebody or you can go do these other things. It's about reading the Scriptures about transformation, transforming you into the likeness of Jesus Christ, God's one and only Son, to help you transform the world. Personal time with God always anticipates God's communications with us. See, when you go into a situation, when you go into your personal time with God, you should always be anticipating God is going to speak to me. Bo set this sermon up really well by doing that prayer. Helping us to have a crack, wanting to say, see, he's anticipating God speaking. And he's also anticipating you have to have a crack for that communication to come through. You got to let your defenses down. You got to let your barrier down, so that God can speak to you. And so in this, we have to come to the Word. We have to come to that personal time with God, anticipating God to speak to me. See, some of us go in there and we think we've done so many things so bad, so many things so wrong. We've done so, our past, whatever it is causing us to come into that time with God and keeps it from being quality time from God, because we're either doing it as a duty, not worried if He talks to us, or we're coming in there thinking, well, I'm going to do this, but I don't care if He talks to me or not. I got other things to do. He might tell me something that's going to complicate my life even more than what it already is. And so we go into our personal time with God in many cases not expecting anything, not expecting to hear God. And we come out of it and we didn't hear Him because we wasn't looking for Him. Weren't expecting. So anticipating God communicating to me. PTWG, personal time with God, is always followed. Whenever you finish that time, it's always followed by you applying to your life what you learn from God. I mean, if you're going to go and invest whatever amount of time you're going to do, and the God of the universe speaks to you, and you take the time to think on it, reflect on it, and write it down, then why wouldn't you apply it to your life? It makes no sense. But many people do. Many people hear from God. Many people write these things down, and they put them. They take it like information. They sit it up on a shelf like a trophy, and they sit it over on the side, and they forget about it, and they don't even dust it. They don't even recognize it. And see, they didn't apply it to their life. See, personal time with God, when He communicates with us, is about us hearing from God and applying what He's telling us to our life. See, the key to success with your personal time with God, whether you use the technique that I'm going to talk about later on in the day, whether you use your own personal devotional time, whatever it is, the key to success of your personal time with God is to be persistent until you're consistent. Be persistent until you're consistent. Don't quit because it gets tough. Don't quit because it's difficult. Don't quit. Push through that until you consistently have this time etched into your life as a part of your day, just like brushing your teeth, combing your hair. Bo doesn't know that analogy, but brushing your teeth, taking a bath, taking a shower, and you know those. I mean, the bald head just takes you out of that, washing your hair and doing that stuff. So everybody understand? Everybody with me? Yeah, do your beard. All right, so that was a recap of last week. If you've got that, if you understand what I've just said or semi-understand, I want you to shout a loud amen on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Amen. All right, so I can move on. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know about where you live, but where I live, it has been extremely dry. Okay, my yard, I have put water to it. My yard is drying up. I had a garden this year. I got some fruit off the garden there for a while. I got some, when I say fruit, it's like some weird shaped cucumbers, some weird shaped squash, some things like that. I got those things. Got some tomatoes, lettuce. I got the lettuce and the kale, and I'm not going to eat that anymore. That was really bitter. But I was growing my own stuff. I'm growing grapes right now, and them suckers are growing, and they're turning purple, but the birds are eating them faster than I can get out there and get them. But I got plants outside. I planted all these flowers. Chris Heigl and I, we get into this competition. She's teaching me how to plant these things, and I'm trying to. I went on my sabbatical a couple of weeks ago, and I snuck into somebody's yard who wasn't there. And I'm telling the truth, I dug up some jasmine to bring home, and I ended up calling somebody to make sure it was okay because I'm like into this stuff growing. Now I've got all this stuff at the house growing, and now it's so hot and so dry. It's just dying. Have you noticed the grass or the fields that aren't irrigated? What do they look like? Just really brown and dry and withered up. And there's a process, or there's stages of drying up. Imagine some type of fruit plant, like a watermelon. Let's just pick watermelon. Everybody got a watermelon vine in their mind? Everybody got a watermelon vine? Get a watermelon vine in your mind. You got it? My son worked in the watermelon field. He knows what that's like. He knows how to throw them things. So you got a watermelon vine, and it's growing out in the open. And all of a sudden, a drought happens. Now, typically, the vine will grow, and it's real tender to begin with, and it grows the leaves, and the leaves comes out. And then after the leaves come out, then there's some flowers that come out. The bees pollinate the flowers. The flowers end up turning into the watermelon itself, and as it grows, it develops, and at a certain time it's ripe, and we pick it and we eat it. And then if you're lucky, you get some seeds that's left over, and you can plant some the next year. Does this sound accurate to you? Yeah. But what happens in a drought? It dries. So there's certain things that happen in the life or the death of a watermelon as it's going through this process. So what is it? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is the plant is about survival. So it says, I'm not worried about putting out fruit. If I'm about to die, I'm not really worried about putting out fruit. So it starts to rob the moisture that was intended for the fruit and pulls it back for the vine for it to live. And so the fruit looks a little deformed or doesn't grow as big. It has problems. Doesn't develop like it was intended to develop, all because it doesn't have this water or this moisture. Because the plant has to survive. Because the fruit, that's for others. But I've got to survive. I'm not worried about the seeds for later on, for the future. I'm worried about me, so I've got to survive. Now, if you keep watching on this, if it's in the cycling of the cycle of the growth cycle, the period of time in the growth cycle where the flowers are there. If the drought hits there, there's no flowers. And if the flowers don't come out or they're smaller, there's less flowers and it doesn't put out as many flowers because it's trying to keep its energy for itself, then there's going to be less fruit. There's less flowers for the bees to pollinate and go on. And then if you go on back at an earlier stage when it's growing, let's say that the early part of it's got leaves growing, and then before anything, the flowers or anything start to bloom, now the drought hits. Now it starts to say, wait a minute, we don't need all these leaves to survive. You know, I got 40 leaves on me. Let's drop off about 20 of them and try to see if I can keep any of me alive. That if I get any water at any point in time, I can come back to life and maybe live. But right now with 40 leaves, I'll never make it. Begins to drop leaves. They begin to wither. Is that the word? They begin to turn yellow. They begin to dry up. Anybody ever seen this? Anybody seen your flowers lately? And that's what they look like. And when they're really tender, when they're really young, just first starting to come out, those are the first ones to go in a drought. Very tender shoots, they come up, they're really new, they just transform from seed to this beginning of a vine, and now they die first. Now, I tell you this because of what I know happened last night. We had a huge rainstorm here. And I'm going to tell you what I've seen just in the last couple of hours, just me getting to church here today. People's yards were greener already. I could see the difference. I'm telling you, by this afternoon, you will see this water turn much of this town back green again. You will see things replenished. You will see things restored. Things that you thought were dead, restored back to life. And so why do I bring this up is because I think this is the conversation we need to have about our personal time with God. See, the author of the book of Psalms, or especially the first book, Psalms 1. Before the whole, Psalms is like the largest writings in the Bible, the most individual chapters in the Bible. And in that one, in the first one, I'm going to read it to you. It's Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 6, which is all there are. It's 1 through 6. I'm going to show it on the screen. Follow along with me, okay? How many of you got your message notes? It says, let me hold them up. I got to see these because y'all just looking at me like you ain't going to take notes, but look like this. Got them? Okay? It's inside of there, so follow along. If you need an ink pen to write down notes, that's a good thing. We got some back there. Tiffany or Chris will bring them to you. And if you need an ink pen. It says, blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked. Now they are like the chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Now we sit here and we read this, or we go through this just for a few moments, and we look at this and we really learn that in this passage, these 6 verses, this writer is saying there's really 2 types of people in this world. There's the blessed ones, and there's the wicked. Now it doesn't say a whole lot about the wicked, other than at the end or at some point in time, the wicked are basically like chaff, like dried up vegetation that is withered to nothing, and you crumble and it just blows away, and it's like it's never even existed before. And I don't want to talk about that. There's enough talk in this world about the negative and the wicked stuff that's going on. I want to talk about what it says the blessed one is. So we look in here and it says the blessed one, the first one. If you follow along, circle these words or whatever. The blessed one, it says, does not. Gives us 3 things that a blessed one does not do. Here's the first one. Does not walk in step with the wicked. So if you're writing in your notes, and this is what I suggest if you're ever doing a Bible study, do things like this, or you're doing your personal time with God, feel free to write in your scriptures. First thing is circle the word walk and underline in step with the wicked. Now when I think about that and I think about walking in step with the wicked, help me out. What does that mean? Walking means movement. I know that. It means an action. But what does it mean in step with the wicked? Help me out. Walk with Jesus. I don't think Jesus walks wicked. Don't act like everybody else. Tell me about that. Everybody else, particularly. Everybody else is not a Christian. Or who's not a Christian. In particular, it doesn't even say Christian, because at that time when Psalms was written, there was no such thing as a Christian. There was wicked and there was good. So when Jesus come along, we begin to identify more things about what that is. We begin to use his life to model. So what it's saying is, hey, you don't have to walk and behave like the evil in this world. You don't have to move like the evil in this world. Say, the blessed man does not do that, which means to me there must be an option. So the blessed man has the option not to walk or move the way the sinners, or the way, it doesn't even say sinners here, it says the wicked. See, the action verb here is that they must have done something. They must have moved to make it wicked. Listen to the second part. The blessed one does not stand in the way that sinners take. Notice that the words change here from wicked to sinners. Notice that it moved from walking to standing. So what happens before you walk if I tell Bo, stand up and walk over here, please? Stand up, walk over here. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. And see, now you know why people don't sit on the front row here, because I'll call on them. So before he could walk to me, what did he have to do first? Stand up. Before you take the action of being wicked in this world, the sin is already in us. We're already thinking about it. See, Jesus told people, he said, listen, when you look at a woman lustfully, you've already sinned, even though you committed adultery with her in her heart. See, when you stand in the way that the sinners takes, it means we think about this stuff. We might not have acted on it to become wicked, but the sin is already in us. And he says, you don't do that. You need to be aware it's not just guarding your actions, guarding your walk, but you've got to guard where you're standing. You got to guard that part of what you're thinking about. You got to guard that mind. You can't be like the sinners, and it says sinners in this world. Then it comes on, it says, or sit in the company of mockers. Prior to Bo standing up and walking to me, what was he doing? Sitting. What is mocking? Mockers, making fun of, insulting. Some people said mocking was like a mockingbird, where you're copying something, where you might be copying or replicating something. And so it's like, don't just, a blessed one doesn't just sit with the mockers. He doesn't just hang out with the people doing these things. He doesn't hang out and make fun of the people that are different. You don't even do that. You control yourself of even where you're sitting at from the very beginning, from sitting down to standing to the action. We move from a mocker, just making fun, to a sinner. We start thinking about it, to a wicked person. And we said earlier, that ain't good because they've blown away like chaff. Then what do? He gives us two things they do. Number one, he says, the blessed one delights in the law of the Lord. So what's the law of the Lord? At that time when this was written, that would have been the Scriptures. It would have been the Old Testament. But it would have been the Word of God, the Scriptures, the Word of God spoken to people, written down, and that they were using to grow by. Later on for us, we have the New Testament. Back this time, they didn't. So when it says delight in the law of the Lord, it's saying stay near that. You need to stay near the Word. You need to be delighted about it. You don't need to be upset, well, man, it's telling me I can't do this or I can't. No. We need to be delighted. It's giving me boundaries to live within. It's giving me guidelines of what to do and how to live my life, and I need to be taking delight in that. It gives me a structure or discipline to live my life that I can make a difference. That's the blessed one. The second thing it says is, he meditates on the law of the Lord day and night. In other words, he soaks it in. He meditates on it. He thinks about it. He chews on it like a cow chewing its cud and just digesting it over and over and understanding what it means. And not just for a period of time, a short period of time, like day and night, 24/7. He lives it out. He soaks in it. And it changes him. That's the blessed one. Recently, I went to Tillman Branch and might have another name on it. Is it Tillman Branch and Tim and Brannon, it's like a feed store in town. And I was in this plant buying mode about a couple of months ago, and I was buying plants, and I got back there, and I spent some money there, so the woman felt sorry for me, I guess. And there was some plants that she had that was over here to be thrown away. And undoubtedly, they have suppliers bring them the plants. And they sell the plants, and if they don't sell at this store, they'll take them back and they'll go to another store and try to sell them there. Do you understand what I'm saying? They rotate their stock, I guess. But these plants, these pepper plants, they were like different type of peppers, like jalapeno, banana, and all that stuff. These plants had not done well. They were only in a little cardboard cups about this size. They were about this tall, but they had not been watered and taken care of. And they looked bad. And this vendor, the person who was talking to me said, the vendor came and said, just throw all those out. They're not even worth me taking back. I can't sell them. I can't do anything with them. And she said, no, don't throw them out. Let me keep them. I might be able to give them away to some people or something like that. So she kept this whole rack of these peppers. And so I showed up this day, and she said, I just want to say, you bought this stuff, but would you like to have some peppers? I'll give them to you. So I'm thinking at first, free stuff, that's great. I just spent all this money with you. This is a good deal. I'm going to get something out of it. Then I saw the pepper plants. And I'm like, that's like giving me sticks or dried up leaves and asking me. And she said, no, here's what I'm going to tell you. She said, I'm going to give these to you, and I'll tell you how you can help them if you do this. She said, take those plants and take them home and get a container. So I got a container about this big, fill it up with water, and take the plants and sit them directly in the water, covering the roots about this far, and leave them there for about 6 to 8 hours. So I took about 18 of these plants home. I didn't even worry about, I went from that place to Walmart and somewhere else, didn't even worry about them being in the car, drying up anymore, because I'm thinking, my gosh, they're already crispy as bacon. I took those things home and brought them out and put them in that water. Come back eight hours later. Totally different plants. They rebounded. They soaked in that water, and that water penetrated into that dirt, and they soaked into that water, and it transformed it. It brought them back to life. These things that were dead, that would never, just like the scripture said, would have been blown away like chaff given time, these things now were brought back to life. In fact, I've already harvested peppers off of them a few months later. They came back to life doing what they were meant to do. So in this scripture, this author continues and he says, the blessed person is just like that. He's just like a tree that's planted by a stream of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. I want you to understand that. Its leaf does not wither. It means no matter how harsh the environment gets, no matter how hot the temperature goes up, because this plant or this tree in this psalm says it's planted near the water, it's not affected by the environment. So I'll go back to the question that we began all this with. How is your personal time with God? See, some of us are withering up. Some of us are being affected by the droughts in our life, by the difficult situations that are going on, from finances to relationship to whatever is going on in your life. It is sucking the life out of you, and you have nothing to replenish. And you drop a few leaves here and there to try to survive. Maybe your fruit that you were supposed to produce, that God has great intentions for you to do, the fruit that's supposed to help others. Maybe even some of you, the fruit that has the seed in it that will be the future of the church to come for generations to come. Maybe that fruit is drying up on your vine and they'll never see it. Or it's becoming distorted and warped and you're not even able to tell it's a watermelon at all or whatever it was. Some of us are drying up and we're trying to just protect and save ourselves. We give it up on everything else. Lord, help me just make it through one more day. Just one more day, and we drop leaves left and right, and we give up this. We yield parts of ourselves. We yield parts of the truth that God has given us just to make it and survive another day. And so our personal time with God gets squeezed out. The time by the living water of Jesus Christ, by the living water of the Word, gets squeezed to the point that we can't even make it a day even when we go to church. We just go through the motions. Our marriages are emotion. Our work relations are we go through the motions. Our school is emotion. We have all these hopes and dreams that are just withering up on the vine inside of us, and we just don't know. And it all comes from this one thing that wasn't even one of the 10 Commandments, but it's what they were based on. Our personal time with God stinks or is non-existent. There's no consistency in our life. There's no consistency with our personal time with God. We haven't persevered enough, we haven't been persistent enough to be consistent. We go into our personal time with God and we're not anticipating hearing from Him. That's like going to the water spigot or water hose, not expecting to get anything out of it. And all we have to do is turn the knob on, but we just too weak, we don't care, and we continue to dry up. But today I want to bring you hope. I want to explain to you this, that we're all in the same boat, because here's 4 things I want you to know today. Drought hits us all. You understand that? Drought hits us all. You will not be in an environment for the rest of your life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, or any other capacity that there is, that you won't experience some type of drought. The question is, can you survive drought? Because we're all going to experience drought. And let me say this about that. Here's the second thing. No matter how dried up you are, no matter how far you've gotten away from God, no matter how far you've moved from your personal time with God, no matter where you are, put in the right water, you can rebound. We all can rebound. We all can recover. When we're in that water and we're saturated in that water, we can rebound and you can come back to life. And for many of us, that Evanescence song just come back, bring me to life. For some of us, we need to be brought back to life. We're just little sticks with dried up leaves on us. Third thing is, we can all avoid the effects of drought. And let me explain that. Drought happens to us all. I just told you. You're not going to get away from it. The question is, will you survive a drought? See, if you consistently water your plant, they don't know there's a drought. Think about that. If I water my plants every day, if I irrigate every day, hot temperatures, it doesn't matter. They don't know it's a drought. All they know is I'm being fed and nourished. And they grow. In fact, I would say when you're spending that personal time with God, that is quality time, not quantity, that's consistent time, that's anticipating God speaking, when you're spending that time with God, you're consistently being watered. And you'll survive. You'll not only survive a drought, you'll thrive when everybody else is withering up. And then here's the thing about the fourth thing. When you're healthy, even in the middle of drought, others will benefit from your fruit. You make a difference to others. Let me tell you, some of you go, well, listen, my fruit's way on out in the distance. I don't know if I'm ever going to see it. Let me tell you something. You know what you start to do when you start to grow? You put out shade. You put out leaves. How many of you have been out in the last couple of days and could tell the difference of being in the direct sunlight and moving 10 foot over and being in the shades of some trees? Is there a difference? Oh, yeah. You aren't kidding. That's why we look for them. And let me tell you, in a dry and withering world, they're looking for the shade that comes from the church, that comes from the people of the church, that comes from the people who are spending personal time with God to grow. And maybe they're not putting out fruit yet. Maybe they don't have their watermelons. Maybe they don't have their acorns. Maybe they don't have their tomatoes. I don't know. But they're putting out shade. And others are benefiting from it. Others they didn't even think would benefit are benefiting from it. And then one day that fruit comes. And let me tell you what's important about that fruit. It's not only for consumption, but it's the fruit that comes from and contains the seed for the future. You see, for me, this has hit me close to home. Because I don't know about you, but I've struggled for years, literally, with my personal time with God. I've struggled to the point that I was really just a dead man walking. I confused my sermon prep time with my devotional time. I confused my time of my personal time with God to hear from the God of the universe with all the responsibilities I have, because there's a lot to be a grown-up these days and be responsible. And being grown-up starts at 14 years of age. And there's a lot. And so I was making decisions and making choices and going through life and doing things, dropping leaves left and right. Was getting distorted and warped. Don't even know if I was giving good advice, not even sure if I could put out any shade for anybody. And unfortunately, some of y'all may have been the beneficiaries of that. I hope it didn't hurt you. And it wasn't because I didn't have a good heart. It wasn't because I didn't mean good. It wasn't because I didn't love God or love Jesus. I just got caught up in everything that was going on in the time that it took to do life. And in that time, I just dried up. I didn't pay attention to the water sprinklers watering my plants. Lightning storm came and knocked the power out, and I forgot to go reset it, and whatever it is, couldn't water my plants. And the sad thing was, I was like those pepper plants. I was laid up on the side, ready to be thrown out and done with. Just a few weeks, months, years from just being like chaff and blown away. And then during this sabbatical, I was reminded how important that personal time with God was. And so I did some research and I did some study, because I figured maybe there's some more people in this world that are like me that struggle with this. It struggles with the time management aspect of life and how to do that. And so I took a theory that's a teaching method called the Pomodoro teaching technique. And all it is basically for athletes, it's interval training, if you will. It's 4 minutes of this, 3 minutes of this, a couple minutes of this, trying to break it up so it doesn't seem so long. And what I've done is modified that to make what I call the Pomodoro PTWG, Personal Time with God technique. I wrote it down and put it out and practiced it with a couple people, and I was blown away with the results. And so I'm challenging our church to go through this with us. I'm challenging you to challenge anybody you know to take this out and challenge them to try this. And what I'm challenging you to is 30 days. Is what I call 30 for 30. 30 minutes a day for 30 days. Now today I gave you out a sheet that looks something like this. Okay? Did y'all see that? Did everybody get that? If you don't have one, they're at the back. This is a description of how to do the Pomodoro PTW technique of personal time with God. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I want you to think about this, what you do in 30 minutes. I want you to think about what you could accomplish in 30 minutes. I want you to think about just yesterday, in a 24-hour period, how many minutes worth of commercials you saw. I want you to think about yesterday, just yesterday, how many minutes you worried about something that was almost overwhelming to you. Just yesterday, how much time did you spend eating? How much time did you spend thinking about your finances? I want you to just think about what you do in a 24-hour period, and all I'm asking for or challenging you to do is to give up 30 minutes of your time to develop your relationship, your personal relationship. Not Bo's relationship, not Bet. That's their job. You're responsible for Hal's. You're responsible for Ronnie's. You're responsible for Philly. He's not. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is about you. And so I made this. The Pomodoro, with that app, that thought that I come from, there's an application or app that you can get online. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this lined up, and I put this app online. We've tested it this week. This application You can put on your phone. It comes up. It goes on all types of phone. We got the links to it on our website. If you're that type of person, if not, you can use a clock, and you don't have to be, I'm not getting all technical about it and all that stuff. Do it however you want to. But I'm challenging you. 21 push-ups a day, that's tough. I'm challenging you to 30 minutes a day, son. Because I know you'll do it. 30 minutes a day for 30 days. And see what God will do. There's videos that we're going to put up online. If you're not comfortable in putting an app on your phone, we're going to walk you through how to put the app on your phone. There's videos on there. I'll actually walk you through the first lesson, the first day that you do this. I'll put it on the computer. It's on there. It's a little dark because I did it late at night. Might be a little grainy. Might not be up to the quality of high definition, but it's okay. I want to help you. 30 minutes a day for 30 days. During that time frame, we're going to read, because an average person will read between a half a chapter or a chapter a day in that time, because you're only going to read 12 minutes, 3 segments of 4 minutes each. So those of you worried about that, don't weird it out, don't worry about it. We'll move through 1 Corinthians, which is only 16 chapters, and then we'll begin in Mark, and you go as far as you can. If you get through Mark, then that's great. That's 16 chapters. During this time, you'll spend 1 minute a day only, or you can do more, but I'm only asking you to do 1 minute a day on Scripture memorization. You go, oh, preacher, I don't know how to memorize Scripture. Good. Here's what you do. I'm going to give you a Scripture each week. 30 days will take about 5 weeks, so I picked 5 Scriptures. And you take that Scripture and you just read it for 1 minute. And if you're brave enough and bold enough and you're not worried about everything else in this world, you might even say it out loud like you used to do your spelling words when you were memorizing those. Maybe you have a friend or somebody that will share with you to walk you through with that too. So in this 30-day challenge, you could have 2 books of the Bible. Spending time with God with those 2 books of the Bible. 1 Corinthians is all about love. And Mark is about the story of Jesus. What 2 greater ways to start than that? And then learn 5 verses. See, I'm challenging you now. On your little portion that you tear off on your message notes, there's a section down at the bottom. You can check off that blank if you're interested in do that, because I want to pray for you when you do that. If you get anybody else to sign up on our website, let us know. We're going to pray for them. Our team, our staff is going to be praying for this, because this is the most important thing that we can do over the next 30 days, in my opinion. We don't need to worry about a new location for a church. We don't need to worry about anything else. We don't need to worry about what next semester holds. We don't need to worry about what the job holds. We don't need to worry about anything else. This is the most important thing you can do over the next 30 days. 30 minutes a day. Giving God your personal time to grow your relationship so it's more loving and you're more understanding about God and how to live that out in the world. So I want you to bow your head for just a moment. Close your eyes. One of those preacher things they do. I don't know why they do it, but we're going to do this. And I want you to be thinking about this, about what God's saying to you right now. Is He calling you to do this? And I know some of you are even afraid today. There's some of you that I'm sensing right now that are not just afraid about 2 or 3 weeks. Well, can I be consistent because I've tried things before and I'm scared I'm going to fail again. Overcome that fear and trust what God's saying to you now. For those of you that are even afraid right now because you heard the word app, and you heard the word phone, and you heard the word timer, and you heard the word structure, overcome that. And have the courage to consider what could happen to you in 30 days if you did this. Could my marriage be better? Could my relationships be better? Could my attitude be better? Could I weather the drought that I'm currently in that's about to take my very soul? So with your eyes still bowed and your heads bowed and eyes closed, I'm going to ask for a real quick show of hands on the count of 3. Just put them up and put them down. Of all those people willing to take the 30 for 30 challenge. Would you please raise your hand now? Thank you. You can put those down. Thank you.